Almost everyone has a favourite teacher that they had at school. Now, I didn't get on with some of my teachers, probably because I was usually talking too much in class. But I really looked up to my English teacher, Mrs. Kennedy. She had a great sense of humour. She always inspired us to do our best, and everyone seemed to like her. So I was deeply shocked and saddened when one day during class, the announcement came through that she had died of a brain tumour. She was only in her early 50s, and she left behind children who weren't much older than me at the time. As I came home from her funeral, I began to wonder, how come her kids were left without a mum? Why would God allow this kind of suffering? And the question of suffering is very real to all of us, and it's one of the hardest questions we'll ever have to face. Some of us may even have stopped believing in God altogether because of the things that we've been through. But if you've ever found yourself asking, why do I suffer? Then you need to ask who. Who are you really asking that question to? I want to suggest that the why question actually points us to God himself. Because if God doesn't exist, then there's no one to ask this question to. The atheist Richard Dawkins once said that when he looks at the universe, he sees no evil, no good, nothing but pitiless indifference. In other words, if there's no God, well, the universe doesn't care about your suffering. In that case, it would be wrong to describe our pain as a problem. It just is what it is. And yet we all sense that suffering is a real problem. The Christian faith makes sense of the anger we feel in the face of suffering because it says, no, there is something wrong with this world. And that's the case because we live in a world affected by sin and evil. In fact, it's only if God exists that our outrage at suffering makes sense. And at the heart of Christianity is a God who knows what it is to suffer. The invisible God took on flesh and became visible in the person of Jesus. And at the end of his life, Jesus was convicted of a crime he didn't commit. He was brutally beaten and nailed to a cross. The Bible describes him as a man of sorrows and familiar with suffering. Because of Jesus, we know that God isn't aloof or distant from the problem of pain. But even more than just suffering like us, God the Son has also suffered for us. On the cross, Jesus was punished for all the wrongdoing that we have ever done. He died and then he rose to life again, and he did it so that we wouldn't have to suffer the penalty that we deserve for rebelling against God. So God hasn't left us alone in our pain. But you might ask the question, well, why doesn't God just get rid of suffering once and for all? Well, one day he will. The Bible tells us in Revelation chapter 21 that there will be an end to all suffering. If we've trusted in Jesus, then one day there will be no more pain or death, and God will wipe away every tear from our eyes. We can trust in God's love and his plan to put right all the wrongs in this world. But this day hasn't yet come so that we can have more time to trust in God. The Bible doesn't give us pat answers to those of us who are struggling with very real pain, and God doesn't always offer us an answer as to why we suffer. But he always offers us himself. So the next time you ask why, think who. Who can I rely on in my pain? Yes, we can get great support from our family and friends, but in the end, we need to look to a God who loves us and has suffered for us, so that one day, if we trust in him, we'll be with him in a place where there's no more suffering or pain. Whatever you face, you can choose to go through it with God or without him. What will you choose?